Silly girl, stop playing with spider webs. These were the first words that registered in Kimarya's mind as she shook her head from left to right, trying to clear the jumbled mess that were her thoughts. Eventually, her vision cleared, and she focused on her surroundings. She felt her back pressing against something solid, which she guessed was a tree based on the ominous presence of a dark and humid forest all around her. These details immediately alarmed her, as the last thing she remembered was being in a city. "Where am I?" she wondered. She moved her arm to brush something that was all over her face and realized it was long and wavy hair. When this registered in her head, she stopped moving for a moment in shock before firmly tugging on it again and feeling a stinging pain. Kimarya, in her exasperation, said, "What's with this long curly hair? I have a little fro. My hair is not supposed to be this long." In that moment, pulling on her hair seemed to trigger something, as a massive rush of information violently exploded in her head, almost causing her to pass out from the overwhelming pain. It felt like her head was going to explode. Subconscious initiating floodgates safeguard. Kimarya, a massive amount of new information has been discovered, a lot of it being a foreign language, culture, details, memories, thoughts, and beliefs. Something forcefully assimilated some of it before protocols fully kicked in. How do you want to proceed? Kimarya stayed completely still as the splitting headache died down. We appear to be in an unknown and likely hostile environment. How would you like to proceed? Kimarya replied, "Sunny, please scan through all the assimilated information, prioritize information on potential threats and safety, then organize the rest of it in a new folder. Categorize it so we can look through it later on." Sunny, understood. I have detected an undetermined amount of new biological factors in the host body. 300, 2,000, 16,000 unknown factors. Starting emergency full-body cellular scan to determine functions and interactions of these factors. Kimarya sat in silence as she held onto her hair before realizing what Sunny said and urgently investing more attention in her body. She immediately noticed some differences and inspected herself with much more urgency. She initially thought that this body was smaller in relation to her old one, before realizing that the woods and everything around her were vastly larger than she had ever experienced, likely enough to put the evergreens to shame. "What's going on?" Kimarya, alarmed, asked. Kimarya, with her back pressed against a massive tree whose elastic, paw-like bark gave way under her touch. She was disoriented and confused, her thoughts a jumbled mess as she tried to make sense of her new surroundings. She looked down at her hands, noticing the dark red hue of her skin and the absence of her tattoos and body mods. This was a completely different body, one that was smaller and more agile than her old one. She walked on shaky feet, trying to get a bearing on where she was and how she had gotten here. As she examined her body, she realized she was wearing crude clothing made of animal skins and odd fabrics, but with incredible stitchwork. She felt a surge of panic as she remembered the last thing she could recall, being in a city, not a dense and dangerous forest. "Sunny, what's going on?" Kimarya asked, her voice tinged with alarm. "Sunny, Kimarya, after scanning through your memories and the new information, my general conclusion is that you died in your sleep of a heart attack and other odd complications, and have been reborn in the body of this person. This body differs vastly from the standard range of a human being, starting with slightly different organs, but with similar functions. There are even new ones that don't exist in the usual human body. The vitality of this body is tremendous. The muscle density and structure are unlike anything in my database. Sunny, gravity and multiple environmental conditions differ completely from Earth, which is the reason I couldn't add numerical figures to the stats of this body. It's safe to assume we are in a different world. Sunny. Name, Drenioi. Age, 13 years old. Sex, female. Health, unknown status, but healthy. Kimarya's mind reeled at the flood of information. "All of that sounds insane," she said, her voice laced with disbelief. "How is this at all possible? 13 years old? What happened to Drenioi, the host of this body?" Sunny. Regarding the host, it seems she also died from an unknown toxin, likely from the environment. The likely source is the odd tree-like organism you were leaning against, based on the information scanned. I recommend creating more space between it and yourself. Kimarya stood up even straighter and added more distance between her and the odd tree, brushing off the back of her clothes frantically.